This is the remake of Silent Hill 2, and here is how I obtained the Platinum Trophy. In this video, I'll show you how I beat iconic bosses, obtained all the endings and conquered the fog. The remake of Silent Hill 2 is a modern take on the 2001 classic. The game is a dark psychological horror that explores disturbing themes reflecting grief and guilt, with characters that all have embedded emotional trauma. The game has 44 trophies including the Platinum, and I need to pay attention on this as there are 18 missable trophies. According to PSN profiles, the game takes 2 playthroughs. It's a 4 out of 10 difficulty, taking approximately 25 hours. This one's not for the faint of heart, so let's strap in and get ready to visit Silent Hill. The game starts out with our character and protagonist James Sunderland washing his hands and taking a long, hard look at himself in the mirror. James finishes fixing himself up and we leave the bathroom. As we do, we're introduced to the world of Silent Hill. We can see that the world is empty, desolate and haunting, even in the opening scene. It does a great job at setting the tone for the game and reflecting James's personality. Once I have control over James, I look about a bit before I decide that the game is far too spooky for me, and we try to leave. We actually get a reward for this act of cowardice, and it pops us our first trophy of the game, called No Turning Back. How appropriate. We decide to man up and face the dread that Silent Hill has to offer, check a nearby car to find a map before we venture down the path and into the fog. A little way down the path and we make it to the cemetery where we meet a girl. Instead of announcing himself, James decides it's much funnier to sneak up on someone and scare the hell out of them.
Excuse me.
After a fairly decent owl impression, we have a chat with the girl. She tells us that Silent Hill is down that way, but it might be worth avoiding. We completely ignore her advice and venture on, and it's here where we get our next trophy. That's for finding this map, which gives us the trophy Enjoy Your Stay. That's for reaching Silent Hill. Armed with our newly acquired map, we continue on until we see a distant figure who's surrounded by fog. James decides that he wants to meet this fellow, so we go after him, investigating into people's gardens, climbing through a garage door, and then going into somebody's house. Once we're in this person's house, we're able to pick up the radio and get our first enemy. Whilst picking up the radio, I decide it's a good idea to try and make my partner jump.
Don't do that. Jesus Christ. See it there.
We then get possibly the worst introduction to an enemy I've ever seen.
What's the fellow armed? What's he going to do to me?
The figure looks like a tea bag as it breaks into the room and falls flat on its face. James collects a very sturdy bit of wood and donks the tea bag a couple of times before I see what he does to damage us.
Oh, what the fuck?
We take care of PG tips and head to the next room to find a
Syringe.
Syringes are how we heal ourselves in the world of Silent Hill, as are energy drinks, so this is very welcome. We smashed the windows on a car to get a healing tonic and then got slightly lost. The atmosphere and the tone of the game is incredible at building anxiety, and it isn't long before I take it out on a bug who's trying to nip my ankles.
Fuck you! Piece of shit!
A little bit of wandering around later, we find Neely's bar and look at the jukebox to find our first puzzle. A blind bit of poking around later and we have been given half a record. We then engage the locals in a little bit of hand-to-wood combat before we find the apartments. A bit of feng shui later and we get the keys for apartment 5, where we meet one of the world's grossest glory holes where we collect the button. After the apartments, we find the record store and conveniently manage to find some glue and the second half of the record that we need. Finally, we reach the diner where we find a cash register. Eventually, we manage to open the register, which gives us a coin, and that's the last part that we need to fix the jukebox. We put the repaired record back into the jukebox, which solves the puzzle, and then takes us to another one. We merely have to press the right combination, which I believe is C2, and play, and that plays some music and gives us a key. We exchange this key for another one and head to Woodside Apartments. As soon as we open the door, we get our next trophy, nice and cozy, and that's for reaching Woodside Apartments. The apartments are dark, dirty, and claustrophobic. This next area really ramps up the sense of dread that you feel as you progress into this part of the game. We get our next trophy here by a complete accident. That's for checking locked doors 50 times for the You Never Know trophy. The The puzzle in this part of the game requires us to find 3 coins that have been scattered throughout the complex. We get the first one from the safe with the room puzzle, we get one from the pool inside a pram, and the final one is stuck in the rubbish chute, so we put a case of drinks down it to get it out. Next we meet a couple of characters here. We meet a little girl called Laura who kicks the key we need away from us and then stamps on our hand. And then we meet Eddie, who is throwing up in a toilet. We decide to move on and leave Eddie to it, which turns out to be a rather smart decision. Next we find a handgun so that we can defend ourselves. We collect the gold coin, we solve the puzzle, and then it's finally time to meet one of gaming's most iconic bosses, Pyramid Head. James hides in the wardrobe just to see what Pyramid Head is about, and Pyramid Head decides this is a great time to do some dancing. James doesn't think much of his moves and starts to shoot him. This does absolutely nothing. Bored, Triangle Face grabs his snack and walks off. James here decides it's a good idea to follow him, and we get our next trophy. James makes the leap, and that pops the trophy Otherworldly, and that's for entering the other world for the first time. The Otherworld apartments are about as clean as the local crack den or Holiday Inn. The whole place is a mess. It's unsettling and adds to the suspense of the game. After engaging with the locals for a minute or two, we come across a clock. From the faint imprints, we need to find the clock hands to progress, and that's what we set out to do. We turn some valves, which allows the suspended radio to drop. Breaking the radio gives us the hour hand, and when we put that into the clock, it provides us with a new path. Down this path, James decides to risk it all by putting his hand into a disgusting-looking toilet. Got to admire James's commitment here, because I know plumbers that wouldn't touch that for anything shy of a couple of thousand, so round of applause to him. After going shoulder deep in Satan's toilet, he does pull out the minute hand that we need for the clock. We get another trophy here, and that's called Shattered, and that's for destroying 50 windows through the course of your playthrough. Next, we run into the girl that we met in the cemetery. She seems genuinely unimpressed to see us, which is normal for most women I know, but she has found a knife. After somewhat of a lengthy chit-chat, James tells Angela that he's looking for his wife who died 3 years ago. This seems to confuse Angela, and rightly so. I mean, who goes looking for somebody they know is already dead? James tries to tell Angela that he isn't crazy, and this triggers a Chernobyl-level meltdown. Ultimately, Angela's trauma gets a bit too much for her, and she starts waving the knife around like a lunatic, funnily enough. Eventually, she does back down, and she ends up putting the knife on the dresser before the scene ends. We finish with Angela's escapades, and we're back to the clock. We put the bits back together, and then it's boss time. It's Pyramid Head, and we're about to go one-on-one with him. Now, before the fight begins, I must say that I was unaware that this was number one, a timed battle, and number two, how to even defeat him. All I'd seen as a cutscene where James shoots him in the face, and it did absolutely nothing. So I started off by firing some shots at his body, and then quickly drew the conclusion that I did not know what I was doing.
Any ideas on this?
For some obnoxious reason, I decided it was a good idea to go one-on-one with his sword with my invincible bit of 2x4, and decided to start smacking him around the head. And this did bear a little bit of fruit. Unfortunately though, as you would expect, he did cut me down with his massive oversized sword.
Whoa!
I was dead, but I had unshakable confidence that the idea to defeat him was correct. So I got up and went again, and unfortunately got the same result. If I'm being completely honest, I don't agree that that shot hit me at all, but we went again, and actually on the third time we were successful with our strategy and ended up defeating him. He cops the almighty huff and storms out into the night like a petulant child. All the while, I celebrate my victory with a trophy. Not too much further, and we bump into the little girl who admits that she stood on his hand and calls James a big dum-dum.
What's a little girl like you doing here anyway?
I dunno. What's a big dum-dum like you doing here anyway?
Any parent of a 7-year-old would be able to deal with this level of sass, but it's still funny. James asks Laura what she has and is told it's none of his business and he never loved his wife. Ouch. A little further on the path and we come to a pier where we meet Maria. Maria looks like James's ex-wife and sounds like James's ex-wife, but isn't James's ex-wife, so James explains he has to go and look for his ex-wife in their special place. Maria confirms she hasn't seen his ex-wife, but then tells James that she knows a special place and James should come with her. We agree to be her chaperone, and this helps us pop the trophy Uncanny for meeting Maria. Maria must think that James works for the local council as she leads him straight to a giant pothole. The two of them then look for an alternative route but are ambushed by the Teabag Brigade, and James decides the 2x4 isn't quite working for him. James arms himself with a metal pipe. They run through some gardens and go through a fence. Conveniently enough, this takes them to a door which Maria just happens to have a key for. Maria opens the door with a key that she keeps in her bra, which means that obviously this mysterious place must be something relatively important or special. We head into the dark, mysterious corridor to find a strip club, which is relatively special depending on your persuasion. Marie tries to give James one of the most lackluster dances that I've ever seen, and then she tries to get him drunk, both of which fail spectacularly, and they end up leaving the strip club after no more than a conversation. With our new metal pipe in hand, we feel invincible, so much so that we go around beating up enemies to the point that we hit the next trophy, which is for killing 75 enemies with a melee weapon for blunt force trauma. Not too much further on, and we get another trophy. This time, Maria tells us to look, and we can see Laura running into what is a hospital, and we get the trophy Admitted. That's for reaching Brookhaven Hospital, a nice easy one that's impossible to miss. In my opinion, the hospital is probably the best section of the game. The atmosphere is tense, and it introduces the new nurse enemies, which you have to be on your toes for. These enemies can take more hits, they can give out more punishment, and can swarm you if you aren't careful. I won't go into too much detail about the hospital as it's quite a long stage, but we have to find bracelets for the hand to give us the key. This means solving puzzles like removing needles from teddy bears, finding the shotgun, and falling in between the walls. Maria just decides that she's tired and she needs to have a lie down, even though the state of the hospital bed is questionable at best. And so we continue on, fitting all the bracelets into the hand, which gives us the key. With the key in our possession, we can now access the roof. We have a bit of a look around on the roof, but unfortunately there's not an awful lot to see. We go into a room and we read a note, and this is all a bit of an anticlimax. We step outside to retrace our steps, and Pyramid Head is lying in wait. He lifts us up effortlessly with one hand and throws us through the door, which makes us fall through the roof. Just like my second child, this turns out to be a happy accident, and we come face to face with Laura, which was the whole reason that we went into the hospital in the first place. James tries to use his charm to get some answers out of Laura. This goes about as well as you'd expect, and Laura ends up running away from James. James catches Laura pretty easily and then asks her where she put the letter that she got from Mary. Laura tells James that she hid it behind that door over there and he needs to go into it to retrieve it. Now, I don't think this could be any more obvious a trap if it actually tried. I mean, it could have a big neon sign above the door that says, "It's a trap," and James would still willingly walk into it and get surprised when he gets trapped in the room. James accepts that he has been trapped and turns to the empty room to see what awaits him. The thing that drops down is nothing short of nightmare fuel. Honestly, I don't know who came up with this boss, but they must be going through some real rough times to be able to come up with teeth on the bottom of a mattress. The boss is pretty straightforward. It's like reverse whack-a-mole, but instead of a mallet, you have a shotgun and a pistol, and instead of a mole, it's a mattress with teeth that will bite your head off. After enough shots, the thing drops down, then tries to charge you like a demented rhino. It's a fairly easy boss fight. I mean, just dodging out of the way is enough to move out of the way of all of its attacks, so there's no real threat. A couple more shots to the body, I guess, and the boss does go down. It's at this stage that James is able to get a good look at what it is exactly that he just killed, and I'm aware that this is a manifestation of what Mary became to him in the end. I can only assume that James is following one of the successful steps out of Zombieland and that he's confirming the kill or is going to double tap. Before we can do anything though, we're grabbed from above and hoisted into the ceiling, and we get the appropriately named trophy Nightmare Fuel. We wake up and instead of being devoured, we're actually in the Otherworld Hospital. The Otherworld Hospital is similar to the rest of the game in that there's one overarching puzzles and lots of little puzzles in that to help you to solve the big puzzle. We wander about a bit, collect all the codes to open this box. When we open up the box, we can see that there is nothing inside of it. The game does a great job of depicting how I feel as well in this scene with James. Although there's nothing in the box, there is an elevator button in the painting's mouth, so we take that out and we proceed with our journey. We continue mooching around the basement until we find a ring. As soon as we do, look who appears. It's Maria, who's all refreshed from her nap. She joins us and helps us to find another ring that we need for the painting. Maria gives James the ring. James then puts the rings into the door, which opens it. With the door open, James and Maria can continue their journey. James feels like he's being watched, so he checks behind him and he sees Pyramid Head. This is the part that always makes me chuckle, because James does not know how to run. This is a light jog at best. If anything, it's more of a power walk. This is until James sees the elevator and he turns into Usain Bolt. He sprints into the elevator quicker than I do when I see my toddler holding a freshly opened pack of crayons next to a white wall. Sadly, Maria is a bit of a dawdler and isn't as fast. Pyramid Head grabs her, stabs her and drags her back into the abyss, which leaves James devastated. On the positive side, it does give us the trophy alone again. Every cloud and all that. We reach the bottom of the elevator and it is time for us to leave the otherworldly hospital. As much as we've enjoyed our stay, it is time to move on. It's also time for another trophy, and after this guy grabs us and throws up on our best shoes, we decide to shoot him in the face, which gives us no big deal, and that's for killing 75 enemies with ranged weapons. It's not much longer until we get another trophy. This one's a throwback to the original Silent Hill 2, as far as I know, and that's for finding the pizza in Pete's Bowl-orama, giving us the trophy Leftovers.
This town's full of monsters. Who could just sit here and eat pizza?
Laura continues to run away from us. James then takes a phone call before we run into Angela again. James tries to communicate with Angela, but just like anybody communicating with a crazy person, it doesn't go well. He then tries to calm her down by touching her shoulder, to which she screams at him and runs away. James is now chasing two women around town, and we eventually get to the Historical Society. After a quick gander in the museum, which doesn't even have a gift shop, we find a doorway with a long staircase leading down. This staircase is a little bit like a clown's pocket and it just doesn't seem to end. It goes on for so long that it gives us a trophy called Into the Abyss, and that's for reaching the end of the long staircase. In the prison is where we bump into Eddie again. Eddie has lost his already fragile grip on reality. It's here where he tells James that he killed somebody because of the way they looked at him. Probably saw him during snack time and didn't like what they saw. Eddie laughs and tells James that the guy that we're talking about is already dead when he got there, and he walks off. Now that we're in the main part of the prison, we find the rifle and we find the overarching puzzle for the area. The puzzle involves you finding different weights in different rooms. Then you can put them in different combinations, which will open another door, and once you go through that, there'll be another weight that you have to find. We find this weight put on an electric chair before we venture further into the prison, and we find the armory key. This is important because we need to get the rifle out of the armory. We need the rifle as it's the final weapon for the James of All Trades trophy. For this trophy, you have to kill at least one enemy with a wooden plank, a steel pipe, a handgun, a shotgun, and a rifle in a single playthrough, and this is the only one that we're missing. The rifle is actually pretty good, and it takes down the wall climbing enemies which are new in this area pretty quickly, as you can see here. Prison area, whilst not as enjoyable as the hospital, it does stay consistent with the level of horror that the game has already set. The prison is dark, it's damp, it's uncomfortable, it's riddled with bugs, and with the introduction of the climbing enemies, it is incredibly disconcerting. Speaking of disconcerting, James sticks his hands into another glory hole full of bugs this time and pulls out a weight which we're going to need for the puzzle. With the last weight in our possession, we can now attempt to solve the puzzle which will get us out of the prison. Unfortunately, this is easier said than done, and it takes a minute for us to figure out what to do. We eventually solve the puzzle and we're rewarded with a lever. The lever acts as an instrument to get us to the next puzzle, which we've got to solve. Fortunately, this one's quite easy. It's just a case of matching up the statements, and then once we're confident of the person that's been wrongly convicted, we have to pull down on his noose, and doing so drops us into the next part. When we come to, we're serpentining through some corridors. We can hear Angela talking to somebody, and we figure that we haven't dealt with crazy in a minute, so let's go and get on top of that. When we're walking, Angela appears to be talking to herself, making promises. James gets closer to Angela to try and figure out what the hell she's talking about, and suddenly we're attacked by a table. The abstract daddy is a manifestation of Angela's trauma, primarily caused by her father. It symbolises Angela's deep psychological scars and the complex emotions surrounding her abusive past. As grotesque as the figure seems, it is like being attacked by a table that thinks it's a rhino. My only gripe about the fight is that it is a little bit repetitive. It's a case of shoot, 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 backpedal, shoot, 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 backpedal until he disappears. You activate him again by smashing up a TV, and then it's the same thing again. Shoot, 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 backpedal, shoot, 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 backpedal. Eventually I turn into Muhammad Ali with a pipe, and I dodge like a butterfly and sting like a bee. I then twat him on the back of the head with the pipe, which ends the fight. The next part is one of my favourite parts of the game, because you just see Angela wading, kick the crap out of her trauma before picking up the TV and smashing it over its head like she's in some sort of wrestling match.
It's okay.
After Angela eventually calms down, she does go off to find her mum, and we get the trophy Unforgivable, and that's for defeating the abstract daddy. Not long after battling Angela's trauma, and we open a room to find Maria.
Maria?
Understandably, James has a few questions, considering the last time that we saw Maria, she was turned into a kebab. When he inquires about what happened, she plays it off as to say, "You're just being a silly goose, and are you okay?" We decide to leave Maria to it and go back to what we came here for. Trophies. And we get our next one for finishing off 50 enemies with a stomp attack for the trophy Merciless. Story trophy next, and this one is for reaching the inner sanctum, or his bedroom, which is Pyramid Head bedroom. I don't know why they call it his, but this is the trophy that you get. Kind of hard to miss. After all this adventuring, we check back in on Maria to find that she has died again. I don't know how she died this time. She's covered in rashes and blood, and he checks her pulse to find there's nothing there and starts crying. It's a bit of a roller coaster for James, being completely honest, and I do feel for the guy having to go through grief and then happiness at his ex-wife being alive, and then grief that they're dying again. It's all a bit much. We take a minute to compose ourselves before we get to one of the cooler sections of the game. We have to pick up Pyramid Head's sword and walk towards the Wall of 1,000 Gropes. As anybody who's been to a music festival and done some crowd surfing will tell you, the idea of a lot of hands beneath you sounds cool, but then when it happens and you're being felt from below, it's not actually a lot of fun. Pyramid Head's sword parts the hands like the Red Sea, and we move on to the next part of the game where we meet Eddie. Again, Eddie has gone off the deep end this time. If he had a fragile grip on reality the last time we saw it, it's now a distant memory. James tries to calm Eddie down, but it doesn't really work. Eddie points a gun in his face, and James has just had enough, to the point he smacks him in the face. We're then put into one of the most tedious games of hide and seek I've ever played. The area is frustrating, there's things that get in the way, the visibility is poor, and you've got to try and kill Eddie with all of these obstacles in the way. Once you start getting the upper hand, Eddie blows the gas mains, which reduces the visibility even further. I'll give Eddie his due though, the boy can take a bullet or two, he gives out massive damage, and he's surprisingly nimble for a big lad. Once we defeated Eddie, James comes face to face with the realisation that he's killed a human, not a table or a pocket pussy or whatever the hell that was, and we get the trophy A Human Being. Next up is possibly the most boring trophy in the game, and that's for spending 10 minutes out on Tolka Lake for the Scourge of Tolka Lake trophy. And here we are. Once we make it to the other side of the lake, we're at the hotel, and this is the end game now. We also get the trophy Glimmer of Hope, and that's for reaching the Lakeview Hotel. Convenient. At the beginning of the hotel, we run into Laura. James admits that he's a fart face, and Laura laughs and says that he's not that bad, but he is a little bit annoying. After all of this carry-on, Laura eventually gives James the letter from Mary, but unfortunately it's empty. She decides to run off to go and find it, and we're left to traverse through the hotel. Bit of a strange trophy next. I believe it's a callback to the original version of Silent Hill 2, but we get the trophy It's Bread, and that's for interacting with bread. The hotel follows the same sort of linear pattern that the rest of the game follows, overarching puzzle and lots of little ones that you have to solve in order to beat the overarching puzzle. Anyway, we get to room 312 and unlock the trophy Truly Special. Once we're in room 312, James makes a point to watch the videotape that's on the side. When he watches the tape, he's horrified to discover that actually it was him that murdered his wife. He was sick of her being unwell and so decided to take matters in his own hands, killing her, thus freeing himself. James confesses to Laura that it was him that killed Mary, and she runs off again, true to form. Now that James has his memory back on what's happened, the hotel reflects his mind and the whole thing is decayed. It's not much further until we reach Angela again and the whole room is on fire. It takes Angela a minute to realise that we're not her mother, it must be the haircut, but it just underlines that they're currently operating on a completely different plane of existence to the rest of us. After a lengthy conversation, Angela tells James that she wished that he hadn't helped her. After 3.5 minutes of talking, James asks why it's so hot in here. Angela advises that it's always like this and then walks off. This concludes Angela's story with James. Not much further into the game and we find Maria alive again, except this time she's upside down, chained to a mattress. She's got a pyramid head either side of her. They kill her again, forcing James to confront Maria's death for the 3rd time today. James now has to beat 2 pyramid heads, both armed with spears. Even though there are 2 of them, they have a significantly shorter reach than their earlier counterpart, and we are better armed this time. The game is keep away and shoot, and just like Abstract Daddy, we beat both of them first time. We then get to see one of the more gruesome scenes in the game, where both of them end their own existences by their own hands. With both pyramid heads dead, we get the trophy Obsolete. After we've claimed victory, we make our way to the roof of the hotel. When we get here, we bump into James's wife Mary, except that it's Maria pretending to be Mary. James says that it's time to let go, but Maria says she can't let it go, and morphs into a demonic bed thing. It's final boss time, and for a change we're fighting a bed again, except there's Maria in the bed and the move pool is slightly different. Disappointingly, the boss isn't anything that we haven't seen before in the case of Fleshlib and Abstract Daddy. We take it down fairly easily, it's not too much of a challenge. Once the boss has been downed, we have to execute Maria, and we get our next trophy for defeating her. That concludes the first playthrough. I didn't get any collectibles on this run, or I didn't seek them out or use a guide to get them, because I like the first run to be organic and to take the game in. So we didn't do any of that, but we will do that on the second run. There are a couple more playthroughs to do. In order to get the Platinum Trophy, you have to get 6 different endings. On this run, we got the Leave ending, which I think is the best ending that the game offers. Basically, you leave Silent Hill with Laura in tow to go and raise her, and you kind of make peace with everything that's happened in the game. 26 trophies in one run is pretty good, and we're about to get number 27 and the most overpowered weapon in the game by far. It may even be one of the most overpowered weapons in video game history, full stop, but we get Lumberjack for picking up the chainsaw. We're on the cleanup now, and we just got to get a couple of miscellaneous trophies that we've missed on our first run. The first one is for shooting all the balloons in Woodside Apartments. For the trophy, Let's Not Party. It's worth noting you do have to shoot all the balloons and you can't hit them with a chainsaw, as I made that mistake and did not get the trophy. We then went and got the trophy All Seems to Be in Order, and that's for discovering the secret of room 106. For this one, we just head back to room 106 as we're making our way to the Historical Society. We got 5 trophies in one go here, so the footage is going to look a little bit similar each time, but let's get into it. The first one we got As Close As You Like, and that's for finishing the game without killing enemies using ranged weapons. To be completely honest, the chainsaw makes this trophy a cakewalk, but nonetheless, here we go. The second one, we got Faster Than Fog, and that was for beating the game in under 10 hours. The third one was Radio Silence, which is for completing the game without using the radio. The fourth one was I Saw That Town, and that's for completing New Game Plus on any difficulty. And the final one, and the weirdest ending that there is in the game, is The Goodest Boy, and that's for reaching the dog ending. And that's what you're seeing now. This is the dog ending. Another strange one, this one. This time we get the tinfoil hat trophy, and that's for grabbing a blue gem at the beginning of the game and investigating it at certain points throughout. Once you do that, you trigger this black and white ending where your James is a space clone or something, and that gives us the trophy tinfoil hat. These next few trophies are the trophies that you get for getting all the collectibles in the game. The first one is Echoes, where we witness all glimpses of the past in a single playthrough. This one's a bit of a debated one. So we got the all memos in a single playthrough, which gave us the trophy Archivist, and you can get that on a New Game Plus run. You just have to make sure that you visit the Bowl-O-Rama and get the note that's in the safe there. So you get this one. We get the trophy for collecting all of the strange photos in a single playthrough called Pieces Unarranged, and that brings an end to the collectibles in the game. As I stated earlier, there are 6 different endings. For one of the endings, which is Maria ending, you need to use a good apple on the mirror scene as opposed to a rotten apple, then go through the right door when you've defeated the pyramid heads, and it will give you this ending, which you need for this trophy, Vicious Circle, and another one. For the next ending we have to do the opposite of the Maria ending, and this gives us the In Water ending. So when we kill the pyramid heads, we go through the other door. You also want to use the rotten apple on the mirror and that kind of thing, and then that will give you the trophy Only Way Out for the In Water ending. Our final cluster of trophies is the Rebirth ending, for which we get Defy Even Death. That then gives us the Party Like It's 2001 trophy, which is for seeing all the classic endings, which is Leave, Maria, In Water, Rebirth, and the dog ending. And that gives us the Platinum trophy, which is You Made Me Happy. So would I recommend the game? Absolutely. Although it's dark and at times gruesome, the story is gripping and deep. The gameplay is solid and the puzzle's fun. This is a game you should check out. If you're still here, thanks for watching. Please consider hitting a like and a subscribe button, and I'll catch you on the next one.